This session's really about what I see as the big changes that are happening in 2018 from an SEO perspective, and what you can do to really combat them or make sure that you're ahead of your competitors. So, yeah, who am I? I've got 19 years SEO experience, so I've been in SEO quite a while now. I'm the lead search strategist across the Vodafone group, so that means I kind of help manage search programs across 27 countries and 446 million mobile customers. So it's quite an interesting kind of search job, and I get to do my share of kind of innovation, as well as kind of finding things that actually drive revenue for the group. Okay, so we'll go straight into number one. Yeah, I thought I'd make this quite topical, really, with what's happening with Facebook. This has been crazy, hasn't it, in the news? So yeah, Facebook, I think, have lost 50 billion off their share price. There's definitely something happening about security and online privacy. Users are getting very, very concerned about this. And I think if I'm looking at something that's going to happen in 2018, I think this would have to be on my list of top 5. We can see, I mean, not only has it been Facebook, but we've seen this with Discus. This is another tool that a lot of people have been using for comments. Discus were they were taking data from people's websites. So a lot of brands were using these kind of third-party services to collect comments and make commenting easier on their blogs or on their platforms, and they were actually collecting data from their customers. So there are people kind of doing things at the moment that is a little bit naughty. Equally, Troy Hunt, who's ex-Microsoft, he runs the haveibeenporn.com site, which lists all the public data breaches that are out there. It's a very interesting site to go to and put in your email, and you'll see which data breaches you've actually been caught up in. And that means that your data, your email, your logins, your addresses are somewhere on the web, and they're available. That's a perfectly safe site, by the way, because Troy is ex-Microsoft. I shouldn't direct you to something that I know the name looks a little bit suspicious for those people not in that area. But yeah, he's recently added nearly 3,000 new breaches to that website. So this is a reputation problem as well, because you're going to end up with your name, your retail name, in the web as somewhere where a retail breach has happened. But it's not only a sort of reputation problem, it's also a legislative problem. Most of you have heard about GDPR that's coming in. Yeah, so this is a big problem. Even pre-GDPR, we have the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office of the UK. They've been doing some trial prosecutions. And if you go to their website, you can actually see some of the prosecutions they've actually carried out. And I think they'll surprise you, because I think people have this impression that it's only big companies, so it's only Vodafone that needs to worry about this stuff. And fair enough, WhatsApp is at the top of that list, but so's Philip at the bottom there, who gave 2,800 email addresses to someone in a pub for £1,000. And he's been prosecuted well, he only got prosecuted for £1,000, but he got prosecuted. So they're already running a lot of test prosecutions at various levels. So don't think this is just big companies that are going to get caught up in this. There should be a website that all of you are kind of quite familiar with GDPR coming in. What can you do about this as a retailer? And this is some of my suggestions, and some of these kind of come from a search perspective. So obviously, full migration to HTTPS, running a secure site, and that's going to avoid you getting caught up in Chrome warnings, as Google and Chrome try to push retailers to do this. They're going to start putting warnings in the browser bars telling your users that your website is insecure. So you'll get ahead of that. Hopefully most of you have already sort of migrated or thinking about migrating. Monitoring Google Search Console properties. I know this is a really obvious one from your SEO team, but most people don't do this properly. If you understand Google Search Console, you have to set up a profile for every different property. So you have to have one set up for the www version, the non-www version, and HTTP and HTTPS. So there's 4 variants for every domain that you have. So you can set these up, you can put them into sets, you can sort of associate them into a set, and that makes your life quite easy. But make sure you've done that with all of the variants. This will let you get warnings. If codes appeared on your page, if it looks like you've been hacked, you'll get a warning through this system. It's very useful. Crawling your domains regularly, using kind of crawling tools, and I'll cover them in a bit later, to find things like insecure form fields, to find out where the migration hasn't happened. Websites, especially large retail websites, are constantly evolving. So we're now at a point where we need to monitor so many different aspects of that website continually. It's not enough just to do an audit every sort of few years and carry out some actions. You need to be monitoring and acting on information from your website constantly. And regularly check your third-party tags, things like Discus. You know, keep up with the news, work out if you are using third parties, what are they doing? Are they doing anything that's going to land you in trouble? And again, I'd refer back to the ico.org.uk website. Look at their checklist. They've got a checklist there for a data breach. And it's worth you kind of going through that and realizing, well, what would we do if we had a data breach? How would we avoid prosecution? You know, really, this really can start to happen. So, number 2, rise of progressive web apps. How many people here are using PWAs? Not really, yeah. So, this is a new kind of form of web building. Now, a lot of people think about progressive web apps in terms of apps. And apps, it's in the name, yeah, applications. But basically, it's going to refer to every kind of website that we have. This is how websites are going to be built in the future. Apple is now on board with this. So Google and Apple are both on board with this program. So this is how your website is going to develop. And it means that your website is going to have app-like functionality to it. So you're not going to be developing native apps, probably in the future. Very unlikely you're going to be developing native apps. You're going to have a sort of app. Your website's going to respond like an app. This is so much better because it avoids us having kind of siloed development, where we have native app development, we have a website development. We now have one form of development, and we deal with different devices. So PWA is absolutely happening. And I've got a quote there from Brian, one of my colleagues at Vodafone. We're moving all of our app infrastructure to PWAs. If you want some examples of this, because most people don't realize that websites can act like apps in this way, go to pwa.rocks with your phone and play around a bit, and you'll be quite surprised what you can do now with progressive web apps. And one of the first examples of PWAs has been AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages. Who's been using these? Yeah. Oh, good. So you're already basically using PWAs. AMP is PWA. So AMP is it's a framework from Google to allow you to deliver very, very fast web pages. And we know that fast web pages work with our audiences. And every stat we have shows that we get better engagement, we get better conversion. You can see here that you've got kind of AMP listed in the SERP, so you can still see what is an AMP page. And often with AMP pages, you'll see them in the carousel. They'll be given preferential coverage in the search results, which again gives you more traffic. I can give you some data that we had from Vodafone. We first trialed this on iPhone 5S and iPhone 5S deals. And we found that we had jumps in position and jumps in traffic. It works. Hands down, it works. I've tried this now in several markets. I can tell you this is probably one of the easiest wins that you could do at the moment. And people think this is just for blog content or published content. It's not. It's for web pages, for conversion pages. It's for any page on your website. We've recently, this helped us do our most successful handset launch ever for iPhone X and iPhone 8. We had a 27% increase in traffic by using AMP. Also, because our paid adverts were coming into AMP journeys, we had a 65% increase in conversion for our AMP journeys versus non-AMP journeys. So this is a very interesting technique to employ. Obviously, from your dev side, some people were very nervous about giving too much control to Google by using their framework, and I totally understand this. And recently, Google said that we're accepting that criticism. So what we're going to do is we're allowing anyone who follows certain the framework criteria, the rules, will be given the same visibility and traffic that AMP pages are. So even if you're not employing the AMP framework, you should still follow those guidelines, because Google will give you that preferential positioning on their page. So that's kind of made it a lot fairer, really, for people. Number 3, ever more demanding technical SEO. Now, I've been in SEO for a very, very long time, and it has got more complicated. I don't care what the other kind of older SEOs say. There's a lot more things that we check now, and a lot more things can go wrong, especially on large retail sites. We're monitoring sites for cannibalization, for orphaned pages, for pages that aren't getting the kind of coverage they should get, for insecure form fields. Equally, we're now dealing with rendered JavaScript, which is a big problem. So we can now deploy code through tag management. We can deploy it through JavaScript DOM. We can deploy it through your CDN. So we need ways of examining the code that Google's actually seeing. So it has got more complicated. So it really helps you to support your teams with a decent crawling tool. So have a look, and these are the two that I recommend to my market. Basically, Deep Crawl and Screaming Frog. They're both they're excellent products. The reason they're so good is because they both deal with rendered JavaScript, but they will help you adjust this. I put you got 10% off there. It's not an affiliate link. It's just they gave it to me because I do a bit of work with them. But yeah, you're more than welcome to use that. But they're absolutely excellent tools. You can also use these tools for other things, and we do this around Vodafone. So we use this for security auditing from the SEO team. We use this for tag coverage. So I can check to see which tags I have on the page, which version of Adobe, this kind of thing. So you can do other tasks, really, with these tools. So see if there's some way of you reducing your ROI by doing some of those. Number 4, increasing performance expectations, speed. This has really come from the mobile-first kind of revolution. People are expecting very, very fast websites. AMP will allow you to do this, because AMP pages load in under a second. So that's very good. But I would still run a decent performance program across your site. It's not enough just to use AMP. And I would do this, and we've got some quotes there from Google saying why performance matters. We know it increases conversion. We can see that HTTP2 has come out, which is a major thing. So the last version of HTTP came out in 1999, I think when the Matrix was released, so quite a long time ago. So now we have HTTP2, significantly faster. We don't have to have any queuing anymore, so we can load up assets in a much faster way. And you can see that it's a live demonstration. It's significantly better. If you can't update your stack, your infrastructure, to get onto HTTP2, then look at a CDN, because most of the CDNs are allowing you to serve HTTP2 now anyway. So CDN, Content Delivery Network. So Cloudflare, any of these ones. They'll allow you to get to HTTP2. So that's quite an easy way of getting around it. I strongly recommend sitespeed.io. I love this tool. I think it's fantastic. It's an entire performance testing suite, and it's free. It won't cost you anything. You can set this up on a small small hosting space. That's the only cost you'll get with it. The best thing about it, you can do site speed testing by putting certain pages into online tools, and that's brilliant. But the best thing about sitespeed.io is it gives you more advanced functionality. It allows you to select, for example, all your main conversion pages, all your main conversion URLs, and then test across all of them to give you an average, rather than running each page. You can generate your own reports quite regularly. You can run things, you can work out your scores at the 80th and 90th percentile, for example. So you can do more advanced things with it. But it allows you to have your own testing suite for zero cost. And voice search. I think this is my favorite change, really, in 2018. I think there's some other people here talking about that at the expo. So I thought I'd give you some of my opinions on this. So position 0 is something we've been playing with a bit from the SEO space. Position 0 is that we've started to find that Google's selecting more and more results to be at the top of the page. We're calling that position 0, above position 1. And we've had triple-digit growth of these results. And the reason for this is that Google is using these results for their voice search. So these are results that are returned when you're asking Google Home a question. So they're expanding the number of these dramatically. So this is a really good opportunity for you to get traffic anyway, from an SEO and organic point of view. But you've got to remember this is a precursor to voice search. I've given you a link there, which tells you kind of the tips to get those listings. So if you hand that to your dev team and say, we'd quite like to capture some of these from our competitors. The landscape has been changing quite a lot. So at the moment we've got Amazon with Alexa, and that's their testing URL, so you can have a play with it. We've got Google over there, with Home, not very exciting name, and Apple with HomePod. So we've got 3 major players at the moment. I really like the Alexa skills because they're amazingly easy to make. And I think a lot of people are a little bit nervous about voice search, but just go and have a go. And some of these, if you go to the Code Academy address there, they've got a free course on writing an Alexa skill that honestly won't take you longer than a weekend. It's really simple. So you know, give it to your dev team, get them a pizza or two, and get them to kind of develop a voice skill for you. The skills are fantastic, and that's kind of I'm kind of more into Alexa skills at the moment than Google. Google is, Amazon has done amazingly well in distributing their voice technology. They've been pushing it on every kind of major holiday there is for the last few years, including Mother's Day, weirdly. But yeah, they're pushing this out to their network. Everyone's getting them. Every time they put this on sale, it comes in at £35. So they're selling this technology below cost. It really is becoming sort of ubiquitous. And that's what we're seeing from the stats. We're seeing 75% of US households are going to have voice technology. This has got a faster adoption than mobile. So a lot of people are very quickly amending their predictions for how many people are going to have these voice devices. They're being rapidly rolled out. And we can see that Alexa has 70% plus of this market. And like I said, they managed to do this because of their Prime network. That's given them the advantage. So Google is trying to catch up, but you know, you can focus on Alexa for now. So what kind of makes a good voice search strategy? And I've kind of, Diageo, there's no one here from Diageo, is there? No, that's all right, yeah, brilliant. I found Diageo's one, and that's kind of quite interesting because it's representative of how some people are dealing with voice search. They're releasing skills that give information back. And that's not terribly useful, in my opinion. Because the skills, what I'm asking to Alexa to give back, I'm asking to install a skill, and I'm asking, for example, can you ask the bar, which is their skill, how to make a whiskey sour? I'm then competing with the search engines. The search engines are already doing this. They're doing this with featured snippets. You know, don't get in a position where you're competing on information retrieval with the search engines. You're not going to win. It'd be far better in this kind of situation for you to have a featured snippet strategy. Roll out your content, get your organic traffic, use it that way. That's not, in my opinion, that's not a good search strategy. You should aim to reduce friction and make things more convenient. That's how you win in voice search. So, for example, we've really, we've had very good response for our Vodafone skill that we released. It's not actually doing very much at the moment, but that audience they're early adopters, and they're very keen to see brands get involved in that area. And we're allowing people to check their bill. So we're just making life more convenient for people. And that's really kind of how voice search is working at the moment. It's working as an assistant to you. It's making your life more convenient, your life easier. And we know, you know, from anyone who studied Amazon, reducing friction increases sales. So what kind of information can you provide as a retailer to make life easier for your customers? And even at the most basic level, where's my stuff? You know, what offers do you have on? Even at the most basic level. This is how you should be thinking about voice search. So, and I think this kind of represents successful voice strategies. You have to ensure that your data is machine readable and that you have APIs. If you're going to interact in this new economy, this voice economy, you have to be able to allow other devices, other sort of internet, other virtual assistants to be able to interact with your data via APIs. If I'm selling flowers, I need to interact with a virtual assistant that knows when my wife's birthday is and make sure that, you know, those flowers are delivered via her address. It all needs to happen via APIs. So what can you do about your services to make them machine readable? And this may take sort of large changes to your stack and your infrastructure. The most simplest change you can do is if you've got retail stores, is to make that material machine readable. And there's a lot of services out there like Yext, like Uberall, that are taking that store data and allowing it to be shared amongst many other platforms, from Google to Yelp to TomTom to car navigation. So if you've got a lot of stores, you need to be looking at some kind of, you know, platform to allow you to share that kind of data. But even if you're not doing that, there are many other ways to add schema to your site, to make your information readable. I would also, let's be honest, that's why Uber and Domino's are doing so well. Domino's I've worked for Domino's for several years in previous jobs, and they're very good early adopters. And they've realized that this is, they love voice search because people are ordering pizzas with a voice command. They're making some very impressive sales through Alexa because it's convenient. What am I going to do? Make dinner? No, I'm going to just ask Alexa for a pizza. So another area I would look at is podcasts. At the moment, only 9% of the UK population listens to podcasts, but 90% of the UK population listens to the radio, public radio. I can see that Alexa and voice devices are probably going to help open up the market for audio broadcasting. So I think podcasts are quite an interesting area to re-examine. And again, it kind of comes back to considering what services you can offer to bring customers closer to you, to make them more loyal to you. There's an Alexa skill for Ocado, which is fantastic, because I can yell to my Alexa if I've run out of a certain ingredient, and it will add it to my Ocado list. That's making me far more loyal to Ocado. And I think probably a couple of the others I would add to this are, this is a new technology, it's a new space. So in terms of registering your brand and your identity in the skill space, that's quite important, because people aren't going to want to create names for skills that conflict with each other, because you have a lot of trouble loading them. So maybe it's a good time to get that skill out there and register, important brand keywords now. I'd recommend doing that. And finally, if Amazon is doing so well, then I've seen a lot of the stores out here talk about sort of increasing your Amazon shopping feeds and this kind of thing, and it may be sensible to kind of make sure that you're covered on that side. You can see that Amazon's kind of gearing up for this already, because they've started labeling a lot of their products. You now have, your bestseller, your most popular. They're literally getting ready to turn on a paid search system any minute. Once they get enough coverage, that's what they'll do. And you can't really blame them. But so yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening. And if you've got any questions at all, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you. Cheers.
Well, thank you, Nick. For one, my head is now just...
Yeah. And I didn't fall off the stage.
Quite frankly, and you didn't. Yeah, don't come closer to me, or you'll disappear into the gap. Right, we have time for quite a few questions. So, who would like to be first? Seriously? Oh, okay. I'll ask one of mine then. Yeah. You've given us some really fascinating ideas for kind of taking a leap ahead of our competitors in the SEO stakes here, because I guess most companies aren't doing what you've just run through. That's quite a big old to-do list that you've just given us. Where would you recommend people start? Which is the one which, if they can only do one this year, which one should they go for?
I'd say you have to get your technical house in order, because mobile-first environment, there's a lot of changes that are happening, and this is forcing us to correct our stacks and make very large-scale changes, really, across the technology that we're using. Because we can't, everything is built on an assumption from Google that we've already got perfectly working websites. And so, if you want to start moving to PWA, if you want to be working properly for people on mobile, on different devices, you can't have sort of legacy problems with your website. If you want to deliver APIs, you need to equally, you need to have good technology. So I think this is really pushing us to correct a lot of the issues that we've had on the web dev side for a lot of years, and certainly across Vodafone, we have. The last year has pushed many of those programs, 10, 15 times further than we normally would have gone. It's a rush to get that completed. It's
kind of another reason to get your tech sorted.
Yeah, you have to get your tech sorted. It's and I think with SEO has always been. There's two sides of SEO. So you have the SEO side that's very technical, and then you have the SEO side that's about building links and content and off-page. And I'd say the off-page side has been prominent for quite a few years, but technical has come back in again, and you need that sort of strong technical ability. I mean, we've had 20% growth across the group on organic traffic just with technical changes.
Wow.
With no links, so no link building.
And those technical changes, they're a lot more it's right or it's wrong than the whole world of link building, which is a confusing space.
It's a lot more definitive, and Google actually has got a lot better at giving you help in those areas, because they want you to sort your sites out. So for the first time, we've actually got documentation from Google that helps, which is great. It's
novel.
Phenomenally different. It's far harder kind of asking about link building.
Oh yeah, if only. Okay, do we have we've got a question down here, right at the front.
Yeah.
Oh, could you just wait for the microphone that's just coming there so everybody can hear the question? Thank you.
With reference to the voice search, is there any particular changes that have to be made to the website, or any additional software needed to add it?
No. Well, I'd say the change you need to think about on the website is how can I deliver my data and my information in a machine readable way. So, like I say, building those APIs is really important for most businesses because you're going to need to interact with something, or with many things. Whatever happens, at the moment we're dealing with Alexa, we're dealing with Google Home, but I guarantee you there'll be an explosion in virtual assistants. And those virtual assistants will be like social platforms because they'll appeal to certain groups. So there'll be, say you're into fashion, there'll probably be virtual assistants that know these are the kind of stores that I would interact with on fashion. These are the new releases. I'll get you preferential deals. I'll pre-order you stuff. So you'll be interacting with a lot of different partners, and that's how the kind of optimization of voice search will work. It's getting your data and optimizing it in relationships with other partners. So yeah, kind of getting APIs working is really important. Schema you can add onto the site quite easily. Schema. If you go to schema.org. SEHME, can't spell today. Schema, EMA, yeah, .org. Schema allows you to mark up items on your page in a way that makes it machine readable. So the simplest example is reviews. I can mark up reviews on your retailing site, and then it will appear in Google's results. You'll see the stars on some of the. Sorry?
Can you choose specific reviews to?
Yes. Yeah, you can choose which ones you employ, and Google is trying to clamp down on schema spam, which has now become a thing, because obviously people are marking up everything, and I think you have to be quite, selectively mark up the information that's important on your site. But addresses are really important. Your brand terms, in terms of letting Google know what, this is my brand, this is my name. You can build up a lot of brand authority with schema. So it's a very useful skill.
API, is it Cortana that they use? Is that you still consider that pretty high up in there?
Yeah, I think Cortana is it's quite interesting from Bing's point of view, and I've got some very good friends at Bing, and they're doing a lot on the voice search, and obviously they were, had that relationship with Siri and et cetera, and they were powering Alexa, or are powering Alexa still, yeah. So they are playing quite a large role in voice search. That's an area they're very keen to impact on. I think they're claiming sort of 15% market share now for Bing because of their activity in the voice search area.
We've seen a big increase with the use of Bing, but the cost of sale is virtually doubled, tripled to PPC on Google. Yeah,
it's. Voice search is going to upset a lot of people because it's going to be a major disruptor, and I think we don't really know how it's going to affect us. I'm trying to give you a few ways, kind of getting ahead of the wave. But you can see that it's going to be a major disruptor.
It's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay, we've got time for one more question, and we've got one just here at the front.
Yeah, right. So mine is also related to voice search, and it was part answered by you already. But so when you talk about optimizing it for machine readability, where does the sweet spot occur? Because ultimately, we need to remember that it's for the end user, right? So in terms of I think in terms of the on-page content, so from schema I can pick and choose particular things that would be sort of optimized for voice search. But I'm slightly interested in knowing what sort of approach you would take in how much to optimize it for human readability as compared to machine readability, basically.
Oh, it's absolutely. It's got to be human first. Absolutely. I don't think we should go back to the days of kind of keyword stuffing and adding Britney Spears to everything. I think we have to. We've definitely got to keep it good for users. I think it's the. But there are some opportunities to optimize. Alexa is particularly interesting for their skills because you're actually putting in phrases. So some people are finding that some skills, they're saying, well, they're not working. If you go to the O2 skill, you'll see the reviews. They all say this O2 skill doesn't work. I'm sure the skill works. I'm sure it's connected up to the right API. But they've probably not put in enough phrases to account for all the different variations that people tend to use. The synonyms, the colloquialisms, the more phrases you can put into a skill, the more likely it's going to match what people are asking it to do. So it'll look like it's working. It's quite a kind of basic way of dealing with that matching from a skill. And you can run that then, you can even do your skill through Dialogflow and then find out the requests that people are asking and then try and create the terms to match it better. But that's quite a horrible way of, it's not really what we imagined when we thought about AI. So Google is coming at that from much sort of cleverer perspective, where they're dealing with kind of AI and this is variance and this is variance of language. And you don't have to insert all the keywords. So Google is doing this from a different direction. But there are ways that we have now kind of optimizing these skills, and it's kind of with the skills, that kind of optimization is a real opportunity now, and it's kind of you can make a quick leap and make something that looks really good. But this environment is changing a lot.
Okay, another great answer there, Nick. Thank you very much, and we're going to have to end the session there. So thank you, Nick.
Yep, cheers.